All right, everybody, welcome. We are here for the Bits and Bytes review of Fantastic Four First Steps, the first Marvel movie of the year that doesn't suck, I am very happy to say. Fantastic Four, very near and dear to my heart. I've been collecting since the 90s. I have some 90s issues laying around, but I really started collecting at Heroes Reborn and have pretty much been consistent since then. Some of the gaps, the end of the LaRocca Claremont era, so that's Heroes Return, and then believe it or not, I stopped reading when Hickman came on. I did go back and collect everything after the fact, but yeah, so that's really pretty much it. And then I stopped with Dan Slott because he sucks. That run's terrible. I did get the wedding because Alicia and Ben being married is fine. That's how it should be. But everything else, no. So that's where I am as a Fantastic Four fan. Years and years of history. I think that where I really fell in love with the team was Mark Waid. And you remember the 9-cent issue came out back in the day with Mike Wieringo on the art. Fantastic. Perfect word for it. It was fantastic. It got me hooked because that was, after the gap, I was just like, oh yeah. I was like, I've always liked the Fantastic Four, but this feels special. This feels different. And that run, just one of the best. So that means my expectations going into this film are fairly high as a Fantastic Four fan. And I have to say, I know there's some people out in the nerd sphere, Gary Andrade, he hated the female Silver Surfer. I thought that was a stupid casting choice. Really down on Pedro as Reed Richards, but coming away from it, my own take, I thought they did a really good job. I couldn't believe this was modern day Marvel. I was like, okay, not bad. Actual normal family dynamics. Reed isn't just totally underfoot with Sue. He's actually the leader. I mean, the whole setup just worked sublimely. So let's get into it. I'm going to spoil some of the film as I talk. So the warning was already up. I'm warning you now. I don't want to hear anything about it later. I'm sorry if I'm spoiling details for you, but that's the nature of the game. So going through, I have let's talk about the cast first. So Pedro is Reed. Pedro Pascal is a little oversaturated, right? There's too much of him everywhere. Politics aside, just in general, there's a lot of movies that have Pedro, a lot of projects and shows. My biggest thing was just doesn't really look like Reed. And I worried about how he could pull off the big brain aspect of the character. After seeing him, I would say he's okay at pulling off the big brain. He's not good at it. Robert Downey Jr. can convince you of the big brain shtick. When he starts mumbling techno mumbo jumbo, you buy into Robert Downey Jr. as Tony Stark. When Pedro's doing it as Reed, not quite there. I've seen this with other actors. If you watch Inception, Leonardo DiCaprio has a couple lines as Cobb that just don't totally work because you can tell DiCaprio doesn't use anything like those words in real life. Pedro, you get a little bit of that here. But it's not often, and overall, I could kind of buy into him as being a science type. My biggest concern with his portrayal of Reed, though, was that he's not commanding. Reed is commanding. Reed is the smartest guy in the world. He's the smartest anything in the world, in the frickin' galaxy, right? So, to have Reed seem almost unsure of himself more often than not, but in this really kind of unconfident way, that's not Reed. Reed is confident. Reed is commanding. He takes control. That doesn't mean he doesn't listen to other people, and especially in later iterations of the team in comic books, Reed, it's not that he doesn't ignore the other members of the family. But that doesn't mean that you can't be in charge when you need to be, that you can't be tough, you can't be commanding. So in that respect, he falls a little short. But the warmth of Reed comes across. He very clearly loves his family. He loves Sue. He loves his son, Franklin, who's born in the film. All of that is handled well. And so, Sue. So we have Vanessa Kirby playing the part. She actually came across really well as Sue in the movie. She was another one I had my doubts about. everybody kind of has their picture in their head of what a character should look like, sound like. I didn't really see her as Sue, but after watching the movie, I was like, oh yeah, she's actually really good as Sue. Um, she doesn't have the generic girl boss stuff going on. She does have moments where she is like kind of tough and she takes the lead herself, but it isn't done in a way that's off-putting, and it fits with the character. It fits with the history of the series and what you would expect from Sue. There is a moment in the film where the Silver Surfer is coming after their baby, and she's in the middle of giving birth, basically in space, and she tells Johnny, "Kill her." And Johnny's like, "Oh, like, are you sure?" And she's like, she is going to kill your unborn nephew. Like, go kill her." It was such an interesting moment. Like, that is exactly what a woman would say in that moment, where it's like, yeah, my child is about to be wiped out by this weird space being. You go kill her because I can't do it right now. I thought it was a really cool moment. Now, that entire scene, I'll discuss a little bit more. But let's get into the other characters. So we have Joseph Quinn as Johnny. Speaking as a heterosexual male, I still couldn't help but think Johnny's supposed to be hotter than he actually is. That's a pun. Hotter. Sorry. Uh, Johnny's supposed to be like one of those dudes that chicks are just like throwing themselves at. That's how he's able to philander as much as he does. And they downplay that a little bit. You know, he's not like running around and getting chicks all the time, which I don't need for Johnny. It's like, whatever. But I was happy that Johnny is unapologetically a heterosexual male. He instantly is attracted to the Silver Surfer, which I thought was funny. All that was really well done. He nailed the part. You know, just in terms of personality, who Johnny is, what he means to the family. It was great the way he was portrayed. So that made me happy. Now, this fellow, I have so much trouble with his name. I have it written down. It's Ebon Moss Bachrach, I think is how you pronounce his name. He plays Ben. He plays the Thing. Another stellar performance. I did not totally agree with some people's assessment that, like, oh, his voice didn't work. I'm like, what are you talking about? His voice doesn't work. He sounds like a New Yorker. That's what I hear when I hear Ben. I don't need him to sound like a bag of rocks. I know that description will kind of get thrown around either in books or even in the comics themselves. I just don't hear Ben as sounding like a landslide when I read the comic. When I read the comic, I hear Ben just sounding like a New Yorker. Frankly, my Ben is just Raphael from the Ninja Turtles movie. You give him that voice, that's Ben Grimm. Good enough. And that's pretty much what we got here. But the heart of the character, and just like Joseph Quinn, he's able to just convey everything about who Ben is supposed to be throughout the movie. It's wonderful. The only downside is that stupid beard that they give him. I don't know why you would think anyone would want Ben to have that weird rock beard. Dumb. But you get rid of that, it's perfect. One other nitpick. No bare-chested Ben Grimm. That's Ben Grimm. Ben Grimm doesn't wear the whole jumpsuit. I always hate when they give him the jumpsuit and when they give him pants. It's like, nah, Ben should be in his little shorts, his little trunks. That's all he needs. But it probably saved the designers a little money and time not having to animate all the rocks constantly. Cover most of the rocks. It'll make it easier to render them. So that's your core cast. And they're very well done. But the main threats here are Galactus and the Silver Surfer. And both portrayals are done well. You know, it's stupid. Female Silver Surfer. I don't care that you read Earth X. There's, what, 2 of you listening? Maybe one of you is sitting there reading, I have read the Earth X books and shalabal. It's like, no one cares, okay? One miniseries, back in the day, the Silver Surfer's Norrin Rad. Purely a modern day DEI tactic to switch out Norrin. But it's handled as well as it can be. I actually thought she was good as she was used and portrayed in the film. There is something a little off with her CGI, though. I don't know what it is, but she doesn't quite look right. I think part of it is you know, in the effort to desexualize everything that Hollywood is obsessed with, right, and the weirdo activist crowd online, this dislike of the female figure, so you have to mute it as much as you can. And so she's rendered realistically ish in terms of the metal on her body, but they did everything they could to nerf the fact that she has an ass and that she has breasts. I hate to break it to you, but women have these body parts. It's okay to portray them on the screen. She doesn't need to be double D's swinging them around. I'm just saying that her figure, they clearly made an effort to kind of mute the figure. Now, that's not to say that Norrin Rad has, a silver banana hammock going on when he's running around, but his body's very defined when it's portrayed in the comics. So to move away from that to, fight the male gaze, I don't know. It screws up her visuals a little bit, but also her hair is weird too. This is why you just do Norrin Rad, guys. You don't have to worry about these things. You don't have to think about them so much. Norrin's bald. I actually thought for the sake of modern dayism, they'd make her bald too. But I think that considering they wanted to give you as much of a Barbie doll body as they could, they had to figure out ways to very clearly signal this is a woman. So they gave her this slicked back metal hair. The whole thing's a little rough, but personality-wise, poise-wise, I thought she was a decent take on what the Silver Surfer is. Galactus, imposing, both, just in terms of physical presence, he's gigantic, but also in terms of personality. He is very clearly a force of nature. He is very, very clearly not to be trifled with. And he's treated as a legitimate threat. I know. Can you believe that? In a Marvel movie, a villain is treated as an actual threat. And there's no stupid quips every 10 seconds. That's how this works, Marvel. If you want people to care, your characters have to care. And the characters in this movie genuinely seem to care and be frightened of Galactus. They treated him seriously. And in fact, that extends throughout the film, is this sense of importance to what's happening. There is no constant Marvel jokey, okay, that just endless irreverent humor. There are no stakes. Everything's a joke. You see it in the comics a lot these days, too. No, this was treated pretty straight in terms of, yeah, this dude could wipe us out for real. And Reed demonstrates, yes, he's been doing this. Everywhere that the Silver Surfer has gone, you can see that planets are disappearing with her, and she's being trailed by Galactus. So the fact that the movie was willing to give us serious moments, let them linger, let them hit, I was like, again, I was shocked. I was like, this is a modern Marvel movie? I didn't know they did this anymore. This is one of Superman's weaknesses when I went to go see Superman, was that it was always undercut with humor when you should have let things linger. You should have let things hit. Marvel was willing to do that with Fantastic Four. And so as a direct result, you care more about the team. You care more about what's going to happen. All right, so let's kind of get into plot. So it's set in this sort of 60s alternate reality. It doesn't say that it's the 60s, but that's the vibe of the architecture, the feel of everything, the look, the color schemes. Reed's technology, it's so cool. It's this hybrid of sort of modern stuff, but with old school tech. At one point, he's like making a record recording on like gold vinyl. Just awesome stuff. Very creative. The use of Herbie. Herbie was great. He easily could have sucked. No, they did a pretty good job with Herbie. He had some Wally vibes, admittedly, but I'm fine with that because I love Wally. There's also a point where I swear he says the F word. I think he says OF. Man, I wish I could remember what he was reacting to. But you get this, you can kind of get a sense of what he's saying because he's speaking like robot gibberish throughout the film. But you can get a hint sometimes of what the words are that he's saying. And I swear in that moment it sounded like he said OF, which was really funny. But yeah, so you have that set up, this 60s vibe, which people have talked to death online and on different shows. It works. It absolutely works here. The FF is a product of the 60s. And seeing that carried over into the film, pretty cool. As a result, they're in this like sort of separate universe. It's not the modern Marvel world that everybody knows, thank God. Now, separating allows this sort of giant threat to come, and it explains why it's just the FF dealing with it, because they're like Earth's defenders. And in the film, they're portrayed as beloved. Everybody loves the team. So you get this montage at the start where they're running around and saving people, showing them as heroes, which is cool, but also giving us glimpses of FF villains. I'm going to mess up the name. It's the stupid apes. Darn it, I'm going to forget their names. I'm not going to sit and Google it. But there's a lot of classic villains that are mixed in. And I was like, oh, it'd be actually kind of cool to see all this on the screen. And I wish that Marvel would embrace it more. Like, because it's 60s, they give it kind of there's a little bit of goofiness there. It's not undercutting the seriousness. It's just that it's the 60s. So I guess they felt they had a little more leeway to lean into the comic bookiness. But I'm like, this is what people want. This is what you want to see in the movie. I want to see them fighting their classic foes. You get the Mole Man. You get a recreation of FF number 1, and you have the creature coming out of the ground from Subterranea. Subterranea gets mentioned. The Mole Man is in it, and he actually plays a decent part. I love that there is that sort of acknowledgement that sometimes the Mole Man is just a straight villain, other times he's not. Really good stuff. So we get to see a lot of the family dynamic throughout the film, and it's, again, owing to the actors and the great chemistry that everybody has, it's really well done on screen. I did enjoy the Fox films, the first one in particular. That first movie, I still think that the chemistry that this crew has is superior to it. It really feels like you're watching a family on screen. Sue and Reed, you are immediately informed of the pregnancy of Sue. Franklin's on the way. They handle it, again, really naturally, really well. And when Ben and Johnny figure it out, it's a great, fun scene. There were moments throughout the film where I was just kind of smiling, thinking that's how they would have acted in the comics, or that was like a genuinely authentic human moment. So they're dealing with the pregnancy, getting prepared for that, but then boom, here comes Galactus. Here comes the Silver Surfer, and she's his herald. She announces to the Earth, basically, you're all going to die. So the movie hovers around this point for the rest of the film. Johnny plays a really good part in terms of figuring out the Surfer's origins. I won't spoil that, but it shows how Johnny can be clever. And we get that sometimes in the comics. Yeah, can Johnny be a jackass? Sure. But Johnny also has a lot of strong qualities as a person. And when he needs to step his game up, he does. And so he understands the importance of what's happening. He understands the threat of Galactus and what everyone is facing. And he takes it seriously. And it makes you respect him a lot as a character. There's other little subplots going on. Ben, I didn't like that they don't introduce Alicia. They introduced some other woman. I don't even remember what her name is in the film. I'm like, why would you show her? Like, Ben's woman is Alicia. Like, Alicia is who we should be getting. They gave us someone else. I did like the nice touch of showing Ben is Jewish. They stopped short of, like, straight up saying it, but he goes into a temple, and he's trying to talk to this woman. And she's like, are you here for spiritual guidance? He says, no. I don't know. Don't want to get political, right? Maybe there's a reason they didn't want to just have him straight up say, yeah, I'm Jewish too. But regardless, they showed it. He's in a temple. It's like, good. That's a part of the character's history. It's also part of the history of the men that created him, right? So kudos for that. All right, so Galactus is on his way. They decide they're going to go try to talk to Galactus. Now, again, the world is portrayed as revolving around the FF and their antics and all their adventures and explorations. And so they tell the people, we're going to go into space. We are going to go confront Galactus. We're going to see if we can talk him down from destroying the Earth. Well, they get to Galactus, And again, he's enormous, he's imposing. The visual effects in this film are really well done. Like, this is some top tier Marvel special effects that you don't always see anymore. Very cool. So Galactus basically is like, no, I'm going to destroy the Earth, but I know you're pregnant. I'll take the baby. If you give me the baby, I won't destroy the Earth. Because what I'll do is I will put this power of Galactus into the child, who will have the power cosmic, which is going to make him super powerful. And then my hunger will be sated. I won't have to deal with it anymore. It'll be his burden to bear. I thought all of that was fine. That is how Galactus is portrayed. It's this uncontrollable hunger that he has. And there are times where it's shown that, Galactus would maybe not want to have to be in that state if given a choice. I guess that kind of conflicts with the idea of Galactus being a force of nature. Didn't bother me. Galactus is ultimately a being, okay? And he wants to get rid of what he has to do, pass it on to Franklin. Of course, the team says no, and that leads us into conflict. And that great scene with Sue where she's giving birth in space, telling Johnny, go kill the Silver Surfer. Now, does it make sense that Sue is going with the team into space when she's very pregnant? No. It's a little bit of the Hollywood, the kind of insanity, this obsession with, like, the pregnant warrior. And I'm sure there's some Redditor who will be very much saying, oh, there's a history of... Look, go talk to pregnant women, okay? Most of them are going to tell you, yeah, I have to pee a lot. I'm not really interested in going to fight a war or potentially having the child killed by giant space demon guy. Like, I'm not cool with that. But here's where it gets a little tricky, right? Because Sue is the most powerful member of the team. That's a fact in the comics as much as it is in the movie. Her powers are incredible. You know, she can do a lot with them. It isn't just that she turns invisible. She has the force fields. And the force fields also kind of operate as a function of her will. So she can do a lot. And, is she more than likely going to be able to defend herself if she has to, even while pregnant? Probably. And I think that's the assumption and why they have her go on the trip with them. But they get back to Earth, and this leads to problems with the people. They're mad because they're like, well, did you stop Galactus? No. And he gets sad, Reed. Reed, again, not super commanding in the film. He also comes across as, like, a little wide-eyed at times. And that's sort of his reaction here, is it's like, well, we didn't stop him, no. But he tells them, they wanted our child. Of course we said no. But then the people of Earth are freaking out, saying, well, it's your kid versus, the billions of us. It is an interesting moral quandary, a moral dilemma. You don't get a lot with it. You get some people, lining up, protesting outside of the Baxter building. But ultimately, it gets dropped because Sue comes out and, like, holds Franklin up. And is like, look, my baby, you wouldn't kill the baby either. And that's the end of the conflict. It's fine. I don't really... We're setting these people up for the first time. Do we need to immediately have them ostracized from society? And no, like, I get it. The idea is to show you how much they matter to this world. They're an incredibly important part of this alternate Marvel universe. So that's another plot point that some people have had issue with. I was fine with it. Now, in terms of resolution, okay, the idea that Reed has is we can't stop Galactus. He's on his way to Earth. He's going to eat us. We'll just teleport Earth. We'll send the whole planet to a different part of the universe, and that'll be enough. He won't be able to find us. So we'll go to a different, reality entirely, or whatever it is he's thinking he's going to do. I'm like, oh, okay, what would make more sense, and then it happens in the film, what would make more sense is teleport Galactus, get him out of here. Now, I get it, though. You don't want to have to wait for Galactus. It's like, no, we just want to get away from him. We don't want to have him show up and then hopefully teleport him. But the Silver Surfer comes and wipes out the devices that Reed is going to use to teleport the planet. There's one left. And he's like, okay, we'll get Galactus to come here, but how are they going to do that? Well, Franklin. He's bait. And Sue knows it. And see, again, this is what I love about this film. This is Reed and Sue in the comics. She knows that this is what Reed would think. Reed, it's every eventuality, every outcome. What are the solutions? The only solution is, well, the only reason Galactus would be baited is with Franklin, because that's what he wants. There is nothing else that's going to draw him. So we have to use him. And she doesn't like it. And Johnny and Ben, of course, they don't like it either. But it's handled well. Like, this is exactly what Reed would think. He doesn't want to. And he's saying, we'll find another way. But Sue gets it. And does she divorce Reed? Does she leave Reed? No. It's like, you piss me off, but you are right. Like, there is no other way. However, they decide to fake out Galactus. We're going to put Franklin in this special carrier, this little car carrier, and swap it at the last second, and Galactus won't notice. Of course, Galactus does notice. And his foot's kind of in midair as he's right about to hit the point where they can teleport him. And he's just like, hold on. It's like, how do you not think he's not going to notice? But anyway, a little goofy, a little stupid. It's fine. Didn't hamper my enjoyment at all. Now, the Rose Tico moment. You will have heard this from other critics. Gary's the one saying it. That Silver Surfer Rose Tico's Johnny Storm at the end. What do I mean by that? Well, if you've had the unfortunate experience of seeing The Last Jedi, you will know that at the end, Finn is about to sacrifice himself to save everybody. And instead, Rose slams him out of the way and, gives him the kiss and says, we're going to win with love and all that crap. Well, Silver Surfer doesn't quite do that here, but what she does is Johnny's going to sacrifice himself to get rid of Galactus. He needs one last push to get him through the portal. Well, Johnny's going to do it. He's like, all right, if the only way I can get him through is I ram him, get him through, fine. And he says, tell Franklin his uncle loves him or whatever. Well, here comes the Silver Surfer, and she's the one that does it. Okay, why would you want Johnny to die? It's the first movie, okay? Didn't we learn our lesson with Avengers when Quicksilver dies after one movie? Yeah, he shouldn't have been killed in one movie. Quicksilver's a great character. I'd like him to be around. So to kill Johnny would have been stupid. It's like, you want to kill a character like Johnny, you need a build-up. Give me a few movies before we get to the death of Johnny Storm. When Jonathan Hickman killed Johnny, that was a hell of a scene. If you own that comic book, you know what I mean. You see Johnny, his flame going out. It just, incredible. Perfection. That means nothing if you're just getting to know Johnny. And if you're playing off of, but there's been other movies, people know who Johnny is. No. Like, if you want to make it feel and matter and count in the film, there has to be build-up. And if you didn't do the build-up, it would make this scene not as powerful. Yeah, I mean, you would have been proud of the guy seeing him do it if it had actually happened in this film. But no, that was the moment for the Surfer, because the Surfer ultimately seeks redemption. The Surfer rebels against Galactus. That's his whole thing in the comics. So, yeah, the Surfer shows up and is like, no, I'm going to slam him out of here. And if that means I'm sacrificing myself, then fine. But the thing is, they're not dying. They're just heading off wherever into space. So that is kind of how we conclude things. Now, again, criticisms, right? It's like, the girls do it in the end. The girls save everybody. Yes, that's obviously very intentional. That's Hollywood. It's endless social messaging, social engineering. In terms of the film, though, the team isn't shown as worthless. The team gets their hits in, and Sue's the most powerful. Now, is Sue powerful enough to actually be pushing Galactus? That is debatable. I don't know if Sue's that powerful, even in the comics, that she could physically be pushing him. However, there's at least a cost to it in the movie. She's using her powers to push him. It's so physically exerting, she drops dead. There's your death in the movie, is Sue Storm. And she'd stay dead, but for Franklin. You finally see at the end Franklin has some power. It's very clearly suggested that he breathes life back into his mother. That will obviously be dealt with in future films, and it speaks to Franklin. Franklin is Mr. OP. He's Mr. Super Powerful. He's the godlike baby, whatever. But there's a cost to what Sue did. And the Silver Surfer, she pushes Galactus through, but she has to go through the portal with him. So maybe they end up wherever they're going together. There's consequences. I think it's handled as well as it could be without feeling just like a total girl boss moment. It was fine. It felt like something that was respectful enough to everybody. I thought it was done fine. I thought it was done well. So the movie, I mean, that's pretty much it. They go through the portal and hooray, everyone's saved. End of story. We do have a couple post-credits scenes. The one at the very end of the credits is pretty much nothing. The mid-credits stinger is setting up exactly what you think it's setting up. But overall, it was a tidy, nice intro to the team. You had perfect setup. Everyone's characterization is handled pretty well, with the exception of Reed here and there. Imposing villain, stakes felt high, and a satisfying enough resolution. I really enjoyed myself. Like, I found myself... See, I know when I'm really happy with a superhero movie, when I'm thinking of my comics and I'm thinking of my connection to them and the stories I've read over the years. When I start feeling that when I'm watching the film, and I'm even getting a little choked up here and there, that's when I know it's working. And I had multiple moments throughout Fantastic Four where I felt that way. So kudos to the team. I thought this was the perfect way to get the FF into the Marvel Universe. However, they're not in the Marvel Universe proper. Now, I guess Thunderbolts teased them entering the Marvel Universe, but it's like, I don't know, like, it's a double-edged sword that they are and are not part of everything, like, in the main line. I also think that it's unfortunate that you had, 2 phases of pure shit for Marvel, right? Like, you had a bunch of just crap, and the occasional okay movie like Guardians of the Galaxy 3 thrown in, right? It's just been a disaster. And now you're leading into Doomsday, but with what? I mean, your lead into Doomsday is Galaxy. Some people like Thunderbolts, right? So be fair, we'll throw that in. Galaxy 3, Thunderbolts, Fantastic Four. That's really kind of it. Everything else sucked. So what is the payoff for the years of build-up to Doomsday? Is a couple of movies. It's just a shame that we went through this period with Marvel. But overall, this was a solid experience. I would totally recommend you go see it, especially if you love the Fantastic Four, or if you've been wanting to see a Marvel movie that, feels a little closer to the older stuff, all right? Is it Iron Man level? No. But it's pretty solid. So definitely give Fantastic Four a look. And for comic book, pop culture, and other news and reviews and opinions and thoughts, head to Bits and Bytes. And we'll catch you next time. Thank you for tuning in.